Sit, please. Assalamu alaikum. Abdul Qadir Sahib, how are you, mashallah?
ठीक है
ठीक है, माशाल्लाह। और इंडोनेशिया का क्या हाल है?
ठीक है
ठीक है। ये जवाब ठीक है, हर जगह काम आता है। In answer to almost every question, you can say ठीक है, ठीक है। ठीक है?
ठीक है
Right. And mostly it's Sierra Leone's, aren't they? Or Gambians.
Yes, two of them, they are from Gambia.
Yes, they are from Gambia.
One from the Gambia, two from Ghana, one from Sierra Leone.
Achha, it's
and
all
Indonesia, yes.
Indonesia, mashallah. Asia and Africa get
Yes,
together. Huh?
Yes.
Shall we start, please?
Yes. First, Abdul Qadir Sahib, your
Okay.
first question, please.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Further questions
Yes.
about faith in God.
That's right.
It's very easy to say about faith in God, but actually it's very difficult to justify, to adopt this faith in God. Could you
It is
mind?
very difficult to speak. Very difficult to speak about faith of God, maybe,
Yeah.
but
Very
it's
easy
so
to-
easy to justify.
Very easy to speak, but very difficult to justify.
I'm turning it the other way around.
I see.
It is so easy to justify.
Mm.
Can one justify oneself? That is the question.
Let's see.
If you can justify your existence,
Mm.
your own self,
Yeah.
your makeup, your constitution,
Mm.
your anatomy,
Mm.
can you? Or can you not?
I thought,
Can you justify yourself,
yeah,
your existence, your eyes, the way they see,
yeah,
the machinery which has gone into it, the know-how which has gone into the making of your ears and hearing, and the whole organization
yeah.
of life as such. Can you justify that?
Yeah, I can justify.
If you can justify that, then you justify God at the same time.
I see.
Because one cannot happen without the other.
I see.
It is impossible to justify your existence and your makeup without justifying the existence of God.
I see.
See?
Yeah,
So it's so easy.
I see.
Easy in the sense that we are here. We know that we are. But we also know that we are not eternal.
Yes.
Most certainly not.
Yeah.
And then the whole makeup which has gone into us, that raises the finger in the direction of one who must be before us. The whole organization has sprung from him. Otherwise, by itself, it cannot happen. So when you justify yourself, then simultaneously you are in fact exercising to justify God.
I see.
Right?
Yes.
This is why the Holy Quran has pointed to this. The Holy Quran tells us that if you want to see God, you can see Him on the horizon by justifying the universe as such, by justifying the existence of animals and life and the phenomenon of nature. Also, you can justify the existence of God by looking into yourself. Peep into your own universe,
Yeah.
and then suddenly you will realize that this universe, which was certainly not created by itself, must have been created by an eternal being. An eternal being is essential, because if you say he must have been created by something else, then you are speaking of things which you don't know. There is no justification for the claim that every creator must be created. It can be logically proved to be wrong. But this much we can say with certainty, that because we were not eternal, so we must have been created. See?
Yeah. But actually in life, there are many cruelties everywhere.
That is a different question.
I see.
Cruelty is perpetrated by what? By whom? By man himself. this also has been answered by the Holy Quran. You see diseases, okay? Who causes those diseases to occur? In healthy life, if you keep it untouched by human interference and misusage, there is no accident. In cars, in automobiles of all types, in aeroplanes, it is always a human error which causes accidents. Either at the beginning, in the making of it, errors are committed, or the pilot makes some errors, the driver makes some errors. So you err and you create problems for yourselves. This is the message. When you misuse your body, some people start eating and eating and eating and they don't know where to stop. But nature knows where to stop such a person. When the nature puts a stop to his eating and he can no longer take what he wants to, then you say, oh, poor man is suffering so much. He misuses his liver by drinking, he misuses his kidneys by doing this and that. And some diseases are born out of this carelessness on the part of man, which sometimes creates diseases which are transmitted on to the next generations. So mankind as a whole, in this physical universe of us, is creating its own hell. The same is going to happen in the hereafter.
Sure, but man has a tendency to forget the good manner in the world.
Yes.
And how can we always remember God?
To read the reminders. That's the only answer.
Yes.
Only advice I can give you, read the reminders.
I see.
That is why the Holy Quran refers to the divine books as reminders.
Mashallah.
Al-Kitab is one term which relates largely to the book of the law. But whenever it says zikra, it refers to all the divine teachings in the capacity to remind man what he is and what he owes to his God and everything. So read that and you will be reminded.
Thank you.
Right.
Well,
I hope you make a good Indonesian translation of this video and take it home.
Inshallah.
Right. Okay. Please.
Yes, also my question actually concerns the claim of the Holy Quran that different prophets has been sent to different people at different times.
Right.
We know a lot about the prophets of, say, Asia.
Do you?
Well, we know some about them, like Hindus, the Hindu prophets and the Zoroastrians.
Well, it's a very, very tall claim you have made. We know a lot about. If you inquire from those who have heard of Hinduism as to what fundamental literature of Hinduism they have read and studied, you will draw always a blank in answers.
I see.
None whatsoever. So your knowledge of Hinduism is no more than hearsay.
Yes.
Your knowledge of Buddhism is no more than hearsay. Correct?
That's correct, Huzu.
Right, but at the same time you are making the claim.
No, well, what I'm saying...
Having studied this, we can draw this conclusion. This is not right.
No, what I'm saying, Huzu, is these religions do exist and the people are practicing them and they have large number of following.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is if you take African religions, for instance, there seems to be no particular organization within, that one can recognize.
Have you studied that as well?
Well, I am an African. So
just by being an African does not entitle you to claim that you have studied the growth of religion in Africa.
Yeah.
I happen to become interested in that part some years ago. And I studied some books, not of course all. Yes. And then I realized that right in the kernel of things, of their beliefs, there always exists the concept of one supreme being, even among the idolaters. And that study, which was carried by some scholars, covered Africa from the southernmost tip to the northernmost parts of Africa. And the author claimed that African religions were certainly united in one aspect, that is, the existence of one supreme being, which covers everything, which is manifested according to them differently in different tribes, in different ages, through different, for instance, in different expressions like tree worship or animal worship or totem worship or this and that. They are all corrupted versions of the original beliefs, whereby in many African religions we find also a sort of hero worship. A great man must have been born some time ago who could have been a prophet of Allah, but who was legendized and turned into stories and tales. So this is one area where I would like African Ahmadis to pay more attention. I can't claim that I have gone to the very roots of the question. Because of a shortage of time, I could read 1, 2, 3 books maximum and get a general idea as to what was happening in Africa. But I have been trying to study the Aborigines' views, beliefs, etc. in Americas and also in Australia. And there I have been able to pay more attention because more work has been done in these areas. But for Africa, you have raised a very important question. I think you should better start investigating the nature of African religions and what they indicate and what are the areas of disagreement among themselves, what are the areas of commonality among them. Right?
Yes.
After that, you can come again to ask the question which is just,
Yes, yes.
is in the formative stage in your mind.
Yes.
Right.
Thank you. Hazur.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, Huzur.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Yes? You are
From Ghana.
From Ghana, that's
Yeah.
right.
My question is, in Ghana, I'm always asked by the Christians
Right.
the question for which I cannot give them good answer.
That's right.
That is why do the Muslims always fighting against themselves? In other
Right. Good.
in Africa and Middle East and the whole world and around the whole world, could you please help me
I will, inshallah. I'll help you.
to give them good answer?
First of all,
If they ask me again.
I'll speak from the immediate past of mankind
Yeah.
of this age. During World War II,
Yeah.
were you already born?
No. World War II.
During the World War, before the end of the World War II,
Yeah.
were you born or not?
I was not born.
Not yet.
No.
And haven't you read anything about it?
The World War. I've read
World
it.
War.
Yeah.
And in a big way. indeed.
Yeah.
And in the First World War, who was fighting whom?
The First World War.
The small feuds among the Muslims like Iraq-Iran war, etc. and Iran, they're just a drop in the ocean of the Great World War.
Yeah.
Second, and the Great World War first. And as far as the religious area of fighting is concerned, just cover the whole history of Christianity to compare it. Go into the area of 16th, 17th century. all of Europe is fighting, all of Europe itself, in the name of Christianity. Great, tragic turbulences appear here and there, destroying in the rage thousands of innocent people and burning them alive. In one single reign in Britain alone, in the name of Christianity, 5,000 poor innocent women are known to have been burnt alive. On the alleged crime, for the alleged crime that they were sorceresses, they practiced witchcraft. Hundreds or maybe thousands were tortured to death or burnt because they seemed to have some relationship with cats. And cats were considered to be devils according to Christianity. To have anything to do with devil was punishable with death and torture and everything. So what sort of Christianity that was? And why did it do strange things which seem to contradict the very spirit of Christianity? And come closer now. What was happening in Ireland? Were Muslims fighting Muslims?
No.
In what name?
Christian.
So please have a wider view of the whole world in the present time as well as in the past. The answer will automatically rise from your knowledge of what you see. It's man who is responsible, neither Christianity nor Islam. It's a distorted view of man, his corruption, which makes him view the truth which is insplitable, split into various factions and colors and hues. So what he is seeing is not truth. He is looking at it through the prism of his own mind, which splits the images and creates illusions instead. Right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum, Hulu. Yeah, my question is.
You're from the
Ghana.
Ghana, you're from Ghana.
Yeah.
Both of you Ghana?
Yeah, Ghana.
Yeah.
And you're from
Sierra Leone.
Sierra Leone, of course.
Yeah.
That's why I thought it was Sierra Leone. And the lady is from
Gambia.
the Gambia.
Yeah.
Right. Gambia is always called the Gambia
Yeah, the Gambia.
or the Gambia. Why? Anyone?
I think perhaps because the
The
name takes
river.
from
Huh?
River.
the river Gambia, yes.
Whichever countries are given the name of a river, they are always called the something.
Yeah.
Because if you say Gambia, one can think of the river Gambia.
Mm.
So to distinguish between the river and the land around it,
Yeah.
you always say the Gambia, which means it is not the river we were talking about, it is the land we were talking about.
Okay.
So, please, your question.
Yeah. My question is.
You are from Ghana,
Yeah.
right? Which part?
Sunyani.
Wa or Accra, or what in between?
Sunyani.
Huh?
Sunyani in Bravo. You know Techiman. Near Techiman. Yeah.
My question is, what prophecies of Imam Mahdi were fulfilled?
Were prophecies of
Imam Mahdi.
were fulfilled?
Yeah.
So many. How many would you require me to count? And
Well, I know few of them. I know few of them. Say.
a prophecy fulfilled by him is sitting before you in so many ways.
Yeah.
Hazrat Masih Maud Islam was told by Allah
Yeah.
that all the family of his predecessors, his ancestors, will come to an end, and the family tree will begin from him. Now this happened when he had been boycotted and left alone, completely with severed ties with the rest of the family. The whole family of about 70 or thereabout had disowned him and declared him as kafir, non-Muslim, this and that, and said he is claiming things, something gone to his head. and we have nothing to do with him, and we'll oppose him. That was the general cry of the family at hearing the claims of Hazrat Masih Maud Islam. But what did he hear from God? It was a different thing. Allah told him, سَيَنْقَطِعُ مِنْ آبَائِكَ وَيُبْدَوْ مِنْكَ. The roots of your ancestors will be cut, severed. They are no more. They have been written off by God. The family tree will begin from you. And in explanation of this, Hazrat Masih Maud Islam declared that only those of my family members will bear children and have offspring to run into future, who accept me and become of my family. Their name, their family tree will begin from me, because they would accept me as their leader and their imam. The rest are written off, finished. This is exactly what happened. How can a false claimant make such a claim? He's one against the whole family, and he says, none of them will be left except those who believe in me. Now, it didn't happen that most of them did believe, because otherwise people would have said they were afraid, they were scared, they believed, and naturally they had to normally give birth to their offsprings and descendants. But what happened was, only there are two exceptions among those who denied, and all of them rejected and denied the truth of Masih Maud Islam, except with two exceptions. And except of the two exceptions which I'm going to talk about, all were wiped out. None has left any offspring behind which can claim to belong to the ancestors of Masih Maud Islam, who rejected him, and yet they were transferred to the future by the nature of by the decree of Allah. I mean, they continue to live in future. They survived the challenge of Masih Maud Islam, that sort of thing. No one can say that. I have been throwing this challenge openly to the world and haven't heard a single answer in reply to my challenge, because there is none whatsoever of those who denied Masih Maud Islam who still live in the form of their children. Of course they can't live themselves, so that's why I say who still live in the form of their offspring and the progeny they left behind. Only Masih Maud Islam's family is to be seen spread all over the world. And then remember the two exceptions I mentioned. One of them was Mirza Gul Muhammad. His father, Mirza Chirag Din, although he rejected Masih Maud Islam, yet he was given a son in the name of Mirza Gul Muhammad. So there, people's eyes were focused on that event. At least we find one exception. But they were amazed to see that Mirza Gul Muhammad accepted Ahmadiyyat and became a devout preacher of Ahmadiyyat. Throughout his life, he was dedicated with such spirit to defend Ahmadiyyat and to preach Ahmadiyyat that it was a treat to watch him preaching. My house was overlooking his house. From top I could see below. If I stood on the wall, with the help of something, and looked down, there in the middle was his house. And many a time I saw him involved in a great argument with some opponents, Sikhs, Muslims and others. And he had a very domineering personality, mashallah, a great sportsman. And he always won. And he converted many to Ahmadiyyat. So this is how we understood the mystery of one of those who rejected Masih Maud Islam yet have left an offspring behind. And there was one other, Mirza Imam Din, who was the most vehement opponent of Masih Maud alayhi salatu wasalam. He didn't leave a son behind, but a daughter who survived. That seemed to be an exception. But that daughter became an Ahmadi again and was married to the grandson of Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salam. And she is one lady among the family members about whom I heard my late father, myself, saying that of this lady I know she is recipient of Ilham and Kushuf and Roya, and her name was, we called her Phupiji. And she was indeed a fantastic lady, so pious, so God-fearing, and so much in constant communion with Allah, that whenever people requested her to pray for something, and she would tell the other day that this I saw in dream, this and that, it always got fulfilled. So a prophecy which gives birth to so many other prophecies. Muslim Maud is a sign of the truth. A prophecy was made. So he is a part of this great prophecy of pious progeny being left behind. But many a prophecy became a further prophecy, a source, a window opening into hundreds and even thousands of prophecies. So when I said I am sitting here as a sign, I also become a part of that prophecy. But other prophecies are related to my Khilafat, which you see everywhere in the world. When he spoke of a VN which very clearly indicated television, worldwide television, and Masih Maud Islam being seen from far off places, and one of his representatives standing in one place, addressing the whole world, they being able to hear him, to see him, and both from the east and the west. Who could read this prophecy of Masih Maud Islam at all? Because there was no concept of television even yet born. No one could imagine such a thing. So when this prophecy gets fulfilled, when you see me now, or at Jalsa Salana, addressing the whole world right and left, and Masih Maud Islam picture appearing on the horizon, descending on every house from above. One single prophecy which I discussed with you seems to give birth to hundreds of thousands of prophecies fulfilled. Because each Ahmadi who witnesses this becomes a prophecy fulfilled. He says, yes, I bear witness that he was right. There's so many, hundreds of thousands of prophecies are born out of this one single prophecy. And yet people don't see. You understand?
Yes.
Please.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. The Gambian lady, huh?
Yes.
Where are you from? Banjul? Banjul or some other place?
Serakunda.
Huh?
Serakunda.
Serakunda.
Yeah.
Is it closer to the this border between you and Senegal?
No, I'm in Kanifing.
Is it in the direction? I still can't understand the location. This is why I'm asking you for the
Not
question.
far from
Are
Nusrat
you
High
from in
School.
the southern direction or the northern, closer to the sea or closer to the mountains?
No, near the capital, Banjul.
That's near. That's
Yeah.
right. That's what I
After
said.
Banjul, Serakunda.
Quite.
Yeah.
Serakula.
Yeah.
How is it? 6-7 miles?
No,
Huh? How many miles?
just 2 miles.
Oh, it's a part of the capital,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
And my husband is the vice principal, Nusrat High School.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yes, I know the family. MashaAllah.
My first question is, what is your message to the non-Muslim, non-Ahmadi Muslim of the Gambia who asks why Ahmadis do not pray in their mosque?
why Ahmadis are not permitted to pray in the mosque of the non-Ahmadis?
Yeah.
Is this the question?
Yeah.
Why Ahmadis are not permitted to pray in the mosques of the non-Ahmadis? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Then it should be addressed to those who do not permit Ahmadis to pray in their mosques. We do not commit that crime. We permit every non-Ahmadi to come openly and pray in our mosques. So the fault lies not with us but with them who stop us from saying prayers in their mosques. That happens everywhere in the world. In Pakistan in particular. In some parts of Indonesia as well. He is witness to that. In India and so many places of the world, that non-Ahmadis put restrictions for Ahmadis to say prayer in their mosques. While Ahmadis would, without the slightest hesitation, pray in any mosque because they believe that in the masajida lillahi fala tadu ma'allahi ahada fala tadu ma'allah ahada, that the mosques are for Allah. The only condition attached to it is that don't address anyone other than God in the mosques. So they are free for all. Nobody can stop. This is our philosophy. This is what we practice. So everywhere in the world, I have been saying my prayers during my journeys in Pakistan. In those days, the mullahs had not yet gained the upper hand of the politics. So comparatively, the mosques were free. And if the local imams of those mosques were large-hearted enough, they would not care about the edicts, fatawas, etc. They would welcome even Ahmadis. So, right, go ahead, say your prayer and go on. So I used to say that some of the imams knew that I was an Ahmadi and they would permit me. And there are some wayfarers' mosques built by the roadsides, where every wayfarer can stop and say their prayer. There I used to say these mosques were possessed by non-Ahmadis, not by Ahmadis. Now maybe the question lurking in your mind is different. Maybe perhaps what you wanted to ask was, why do not Ahmadis say their prayer behind non-Ahmadi imams? Is that right?
Yeah.
Was this the question?
Yeah.
Which was framed differently, camouflaged question. So first I answered the question which was on the surface. Now let me delve deeper and answer the question intended. The answer is very simple. Ba Jamaat namaz cannot be said without accepting the imam who is in front of you. If you disagree with him, if you reject him, then basic piety which is required for the imam to possess, then you can't say namaz behind him. Can you? When you go to join a namaz ba Jamaat, it is a certificate by you that I accept this imam to be potentially capable in leading us in prayer before Allah. Right or wrong?
Right.
Now these imams you are referring to have individually and unitedly rejected the imam of this age created by Allah Himself. Right or wrong?
Right.
Right?
Right.
And they have the audacity to reject the imam made by Allah Himself, Al-Imam Al-Mahdi. And you have the temerity not to be able to reject them out of fear of unpopularity. The worldly imams lost their right to imamatship, the right to imamat, the moment they rejected the imam appointed by Allah. It's as simple as that. Otherwise the image will be so grotesque and so ugly that these worldly people who have no authority on religion, because the moment authority descending from Allah, the imam was made, they in fact were de-imamed. They were completely dispossessed of all the authority they claimed to possess. Because once Imam descends from Allah, then he is the Imam, he is the authority. The rest of the Imam lose meaning. And they meaningless people, imagine, rising with pride and arrogance and rejecting the Imam made by Allah and asking Ahmadis to come and join them in prayer behind. How on earth can you permit yourself to do that? That will be shirk. You believe that Allah has sent His Imam. You know him, you have accepted him. And yet you follow the Imams who have rejected that Imam. It's impossible. I mean, there's no iota of logic left in this if you permit yourself to do that. Understand?
Yeah.
Good. Imam Sahib. Answer.
Yes, sir.
Yes, please. What's happening to your chair? It is
Okay, sir.
bending to, giving way to your pressure. Your weight.
No, actually.
If it's not secure,
It's good.
change
It's
it,
good.
please.
No, it's good. It's good. Assalamualaikum
Wa
warahmatullahi
alaikum assalam wa
wabarakatuh.
rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yes, my question is about a book of Man of God.
A book of man of God. The book,
The book
Man of God.
of God. What is the background of that book? And is that all what written is correct? Thank you, sir.
I don't know whether all that is written is correct or not, because I have not read that book. See, only in some parts I read it, because it was pointed out to me specifically that it is related, that you said this or you believe in this and that and that. Is that right? And then I had to read it before answering. Right?
That's it.
The background is simply this, that there is a writer here in England, well-known writer, who was also a sub-editor in one of the daily papers of England, who took to writing books. It was he who first wrote a book on Hazrat Masih Maud alayhi salatu wassalam, who was published under the title of Mirza Ghulam Ahmad of Qadian. Now, during that exercise, when he collected material on Masih Maud alayhi salatu wassalam, naturally he came to me and sought interviews, rather a series of interviews with me. During those interviews, the idea was born into his mind without any other suggestion that this book it will make a good subject for a book if I write on the Khalifa who is representing Masih Maud alayhi salatu wasalam, and he is a person here in this age who shares this age with us. So perhaps people will become interested in knowing more about him. So it was his idea. He suggested it to the ex-Imam Bashir Ahmad Khan Rafiq, who was instrumental throughout this, the process of preparing that book and helping him with evidence and other literature, etc., etc. So he told him that he is now almost determined to write a book on your present head. What is your suggestion? In what way could you help or
It is
just a minute, to promote this idea? Bashir Ahmad Khan Rafiq discussed with me. I told him, look here, tell him that the Jamaat will not be responsible in any manner of speaking for either the expenditure or your efforts, except that if you seek interviews, I will try to find time to give you time for personal interviews. If you want other material, our scholars could help you, but no financial or administrative commitment. You will have to arrange for your own press. It will have nothing to do with me and my permission, so that it would involve me in other responsibilities like providing funds or publication and things in that. So he agreed. He said, it's entirely my personal exercise, individual exercise, has nothing to do with the Jamaat and you. Now permit me to do it and I'll come to seek interviews. Then he sought interviews. I believe he is a true man. Most often he must have kept true to the understanding. Perhaps always he was true to the understanding he received. But he made a few mistakes sometimes in understanding a point. So in the second edition, in those areas where some mistakes were brought to my notice, I asked Bashir Ahmad Khan Rafiq to inform him, and with his permission, those areas should be changed, and some suggestions were made which he, after accepting, did himself. He didn't accept writings of others, but he understood it, made some changes, or wrote a completely new small passage correcting his past mistake. So in the second edition, I know in some areas of his misunderstanding, corrections were made. About the rest, I don't know. But why don't you ask the specific question instead of beating about the bush?
Because it is a good book, I think. I read it.
Yes.
It's a wonderful book.
Good.
So sometimes is it correct or not? Something that go That's
the reason why you and some others have been shocked sometimes, in the sense that it's so much different from our imagination of the man he is. Because whenever he discussed with me my own personal past life, one thing which I adhered to tenaciously was that I would tell nothing but the truth. So those areas of my private lives were exposed, which normally would not have been exposed to others' eyes. And that is whatever faults I lived with, I'm not ashamed of that, because man is, of course, errs and he commits faults, but I would not permit myself to commit the folly of becoming a liar for the sake of presenting a better image of myself.
Yes, it's correct.
So it is in those areas where some Ahmadis who had an imaginary view of a Khalifa's past even before he was made a Khalifa, they wonder, oh, did I do this really? Did I listen to music myself?
Yeah.
Of course I did. Why should I hide it? So that is the point, and so many other such points, which sometimes, if not shock, they startle Ahmadis. But those areas are right. Wherever I have discussed my own weakness and omissions and things, take it to be right. I'm sure he didn't invent things from himself.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Please.
Assalamu alaikum. Actually, my question is about prophets, the account of some of the prophets as mentioned in the Holy Quran and that mentioned in the Bible. There seem to be, in some respects, slight differences between the detailed account that's given in the Holy Quran and that given in the Bible. I mean, one example in mind is that of the account of Hazrat Ismail and Hazrat Ishaq.
That's right.
Yes.
Isa.
Yeah, Isa, yeah. The biblical account.
Isa ibn Maryam.
Yes.
Right.
The biblical Ishaq, Isaac. So the biblical account of these two prophets actually seem to differ slightly from that of
I see.
Quranic account.
You are speaking of Ishmael
And Ishaq.
Ismail and Ishaq.
Ishaq, yes.
Isaac,
yes.
correct?
Yes.
So what is it in your mind specifically which you want to ask?
Well, according to the Christians I have talked to, they claim that it was Hazrat Ishaq who was sacrificed instead of Hazrat Ismail. And
Where?
Well,
Where was he sacrificed? Show us the secret place.
well,
Where is the historical evidence?
that is it.
Where are the people who stand witness for thousands of years that this was the place where someone was sacrificed or attempted to be sacrificed? Tell me.
Well, I don't know. So.
Nobody knows in the world.
Yes.
All they know about is Mecca.
Okay.
All they know about is Mecca, where Ismail was practically sacrificed in the sense that he was left in a desert without water, without any shade of trees or things, without any food. Blazing hot sun on their head, and the empty ground, infertile ground which didn't grow anything, even a petal. This was the first sacrifice. This was the real great sacrifice. Then came the attempted sacrifice, like the slaughtering of a lamb, which God prevented. Can you show me any such place in the world where the entire history of a people stand witness to this such a thing regarding Isaac, not Ishmael?
Well, not actually.
So
Not.
a claim unsupported is a claim disproved. Right?
Yes.
Please.
My second question is, the Christians in Ghana always asking why Muslims have so many wives at
Why
one
Muslims
time.
have so many wives?
At one time.
And what are Christians doing instead? Huh? You see, you should be realistic.
Yeah, no.
What pagans do instead, what others do. What happens there is that there is so much promiscuity and permissiveness in the daily intercourse of life. The relationship between African man and African woman is so undisciplined, so completely without any monitoring eye, watching their behavior from the moral viewpoint, that it has gone completely to a state of disorder. Right or wrong?
Right.
Now, why is AIDS spreading more among the Christians than among the Muslims? Why is it that in Uganda, the area predominantly Christian is the area which has been stricken hardest by AIDS, while in the southern tribes, closer to Sudan, for instance, there is comparatively very little incidence of AIDS reported. So the difference is obvious. In one case, although they claim that you must keep to one wife, they neither keep to one wife nor keep to one husband. And this chaos, which I have just mentioned, is a natural outcome of this misbehavior. On the other part, where they claim that you should have stuck to one wife, but you are permitting some to marry to have four wives, the state of the Muslims' health in general, both men and women, is far better in relation to the sex-related diseases. That is the particular area to which I want to point out. So, because the sex-related diseases now have become a thermometer of the temperature of the society, moral temperature of the society, we can say it definitely without going into claims or counterclaims that Islamic way of interrelationship between man and woman is definitely healthier than the other way. And their claim is wrong and absolute rubbish, that they can live and they can demonstrate to live with only one wife. They live with one wife plus many others' wives as well. And the wives live with one husband plus many others' husbands as well. Is this what they want the world to be? It's hypocrisy they're talking about. Only claims which look beautiful as far as the titles go. If you go deeper into and read underneath the title, then you begin to see a completely different picture of life. They're not objecting at all against having more wives than one. What they're objecting against is discipline and order, sharing the responsibility. As long as you do not share responsibility, you can have any number of wives if you please, unofficially. No one would raise his little finger against that. What they're objecting against is discipline and order and responsibility. When Muslims marry 4 wives, they are responsible towards each of them and to the progeny born to each of them. How many Christians or pagans or others are responsible for the illegitimate children they leave behind and a procession of those following unfortunate mothers who have to take care for them, sometimes by themselves, sometimes with the money of a father who is not their father. The whole system is cheating. So you must be able to hit back, not with anger, but with the facts. You must be armed with certain facts to speak to them. Just the defense is not enough. You start defending this philosophy of this and that, you will get involved in a debate where it will be very difficult for you to extricate yourself with honor because of lack of your knowledge. Now another aspect to the same question with a different way of answering it. You should have asked them, these Christians, why don't they marry more than one wife? Jesus Christ said that he has brought no new religion. He had not added a jot to the teachings of the Torah. Right or wrong?
Right.
Right. So what does Torah tell us about wives? 1 wife, 2, 3, 4, or 99? Yet with a desire to have the 100th one. Amazing. They don't read their Bible. They don't know that it was not a permission by Islam, it was a restriction imposed by Islam in relation to the previous teachings. They had given unlimited power to members of their society, even to the prophets, to marry as many times as they like. What did Abraham do? What did Isaac do? How many wives did he have? Yaqub had. They don't even read their own history. And they rise to attack Islam. If they read the history, they will know that Islam has not only inherited some of the teachings of the old, but has always modified it to a better law or regulation. So this is a modified version of Judaism and Christianity. Previously there was no limit imposed. Islam says no, do not marry more than 4 times, provided that you can keep the balance of justice, perfect balance of justice among all the wives. What a big condition laid, as if permission granted and withdrawn. Because the condition of balance is a very important condition. Very few people can fulfill this condition. So when they marry and present an ugly example of a husband with 4 wives, it is no fault of Islam. It is the fault of the person who misread the permission, did not fulfill the essential condition of absolute justice, yet married, and gave the enemies of Islam an opportunity to lash at Islam and to disfigure the teachings of Islam. But the real undisfigured teaching is absolutely pure and clean. I don't want to go into the detail of this because I have already spoken many a time on the subject. So I think this much should suffice, that they themselves have a teaching with almost unlimited number of permissions to marry more than once. They have no right to object to Islam. First they justify their own teachings, and then if they abstain, they only abstain in claim. But in theory, in philosophy, they say that we have a better religion, pure religion, we abstain from marrying 4 times. Well, actually there is a free-for-all everywhere in their society, which is growing in disorder by the day. Is it right or wrong? Tell me.
It's right.
So why don't you say yes, we are going to? Okay? Please, next.
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum Hudu.
I think we're left with only 2 minutes. Are we? Or 1 minute?
3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Yeah. My second question is,
Yes.
please, what is your message to those people who make it very difficult for the Ahmadi Muslims not to go to the annual pilgrimage?
You see, the message already delivered to them by the Holy Quran has been rejected by them. What would they care about my message? The Holy Quran has already delivered the clear-cut message that man has no authority to interfere with other people's religions. Everybody is free for himself. Everybody is only answerable to Allah. La ikraha fi din. There is no question in religion. Is that not a clear-cut message without ambiguity delivered by the Holy Quran to all the believers, or in fact to all mankind? Tell me,
Yes.
right or wrong?
Right.
So when they discard this message, when they do not care for this, when they dishonor their responsibility to accept this message and to implement it in their lives, what would they care for my message? I'm neither here nor there for them. Okay?
Yes.
The message, the only message could be, please read the Holy Quran and find out what the Quran tells you to do. Okay?
Yes.
Please. 1 minute or 1.5 minutes? 1 minute, please.
What is the real important? What is the real important for the Tahajjud prayer?
For the
Tahajjud prayer.
Tahajjud prayer. There is one prayer which is not obligatory, but it is optional. And also it is the one prayer which is said under the cover of night, when nobody is watching you, even your partners in life sometimes are sleeping, and you slightly, slowly and without making noise, leave your bed and appear before God. So this is the purest prayer in the sense of being entirely dedicated to Allah without any shadow of doubt. And as such, it has some advantages over other prayers said during the day in the public eye. They have their own importance, of course. So this one single importance is so much liked by Allah that although I didn't make it obligatory for the man or woman, still he has sacrificed his rest and come to me. Without anybody else knowing what is happening, he comes before me. So sometimes the optional acts becomes lovelier than the obligatory acts. And this is the main importance of Tahajjud prayer. Right? Thank you. I'm told that the time is over. Huh? Yes, almost. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It was a pleasure sitting with you. I hope to meet you again, inshallah. Okay? Assalamu alaikum.